Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. Want to talk about the usual topics, the updates on any of this election fraud. I heard Sidney Powell this morning with Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business, and it seems that no Kraken, but again, I continue to wait and read and research. Statement coming out from Dominion, absolutely disclaiming all claims made by Giuliani yesterday at his press conference, saying that they have no connection to Venezuela, they have no connection to Cuba, and that there's absolutely no fraud involved. This morning I hear Powell on television saying that the Dominion staff, personnel, offices are all heading for the hills. They're on the run. They have vacated premises. I don't know yet where the truth lies. I am now betting on jockeys, not the horse. I think that Sidney Powell is reputable enough to give it a little more leeway. But like I said, as of today, I don't see the Kraken. And maybe reading the tea leaves a little too deeply at this point myself, but Mnuchin coming out and saying that the administration has decided not to extend part of the stimulus, some of the stimulus lending packages beyond December 31st. My personal take on it is that it is, I'll fix you guys for this. It's Trump being mad and upset and vengeful and saying, I'm going to leave Biden with a sinking ship. If that's the way I go out, I'm going to go out leaving him a sinking ship. I'm not going to keep helping this economy. I'm not going to keep helping his efforts. I'm not going to keep helping the runoff election in Georgia for the Senate. I could be reading it wrong, but I don't like the timing of this statement and the brevity. I think if you're going to stop it and it's based on a sound financial reasoning, I think you need to step in front of the American people and explain to them, listen, we still have billions of dollars that have not been used. The portions of the funding that we're cutting out in no way, shape, or form will impact the economy or basic services to this country. It will not stop the credit markets, which is basically the ones he have left in place, the subsidies, the stimulus that has been left in place addresses healthy, vibrant working credit and equity markets, bond markets. And the stock market's reacting that way this morning. The Dow is basically down 30 points pre-market. So with the NASDAQ slightly up pre-market. So I think that I think it needs a little better explanation, and I think the timing is bad, and I think that these are things that could be thought out a little more, and that we can't. Both sides are taking this. The Democrats, obviously, for 4.5 years have, since Trump came down that escalator in June of 2015, the Democrats have taken this as a personal vendetta, hatred, a vengeance. Their unprofessionalism exudes from all their pores when they speak about this guy. They have decided that for 4 years, their entire careers, lives, every breathing moment was to be spent on destroying Donald Trump. That they can't argue. And that has become personal. It's become personal in the media. It's become personal with the attacks on the street again, we talked about Washington, the support of Trump that last weekend occurred, and the attacks, the vicious attacks by the peaceful, quote unquote, liberals, the peaceful left. Attacks as people ate lunch, shooting fireworks at them, screaming obscenities at them, punching people, shoving people, knocking people to the ground. It's horrible. It is horrible. I pick up my grandkids sometimes, drop them off at school in the mornings, and we're talking about young kids. This is a elementary school, and there are vehicles that drive up to pick up and drop off kids with, on the back of the car, bumper stickers that say F Trump. Now, if I wore a t-shirt in front of these liberals with that word on it, okay, and went to go pick up my kids wearing any kind of identifiable Trump paraphernalia with a t-shirt with that word on it, you can rest assured that my name would be brought before the school board as corrupting youth. But this is being driven around, paraded around. Kids can see it while they're in line, while the parents are in line waiting to pick them up, on the back of vehicles, on the side, on the bumpers of vehicles. F Trump. That's the liberals. That is what we're facing. I heard a congressman from Tennessee, a Republican, Green, and he was on television yesterday, I believe. He's a freshman term guy. He's probably in his late 50s. And he said that they asked him, the reporter asked, or the interviewer asked, what has surprised you the most about Washington? And I think this is very telling. He said that when he first went to Washington, this being his freshman term, he knew that there were political divides and that the left and the right, he understood all this, but he thought that nonetheless, what he would encounter behind closed doors when negotiations were taking place, when conversations were taking place, when committees were convening to discuss the issues they were selected to discuss, that there would always be that underlying current of what is good for the people on both sides, that would be the push and the drive. He said the biggest disappointment that he has witnessed is that the Democrats, and this is literally what he said, that the Democrats, his biggest eye-opener is that the Democrats and Pelosi specifically are interested only, first and foremost, in their power structure, and he feels that they could care less about the American people. That is a freshman term Republican who said he went in with the intent of helping America and realizing he was going to be arguing against the Democrats, but that bottom line that would make him successful as a legislator would be the fact that at the end of the day, both sides want what is best for the American people. And he said the eye-opener was that the Democrats do not want what is best for the American people. Look at what's happening in New York with this serial killer Cuomo as the governor, the nursing home serial killer Cuomo, and de Blasio, Mayor de Blasio. De Blasio has implemented a 3% infection rate for COVID as a basis to shut down public schools. He's shutting down public schools. He is telling the kids, and he is affecting mostly the socioeconomic level that his party is professing to want to help and defend the most. So these kids now are not going to school, or they're doing remote learning, which doesn't work as well. And most of the poorer kids don't have access to the technology for the accurate adequate remote learning. They probably don't have the supervision, which has been, proven in studies about how important the household is, and where sometimes it's where things are lacking from the parent side. So a lot of these kids are on their own. Their parents are out working, two wage earners. They're out working, and these kids are supposed to be learning remotely. It's not working. However, the people in the higher socioeconomic level, those who go to charter schools, their kids are going to school and learning in school. Charter schools which are vehemently opposed by the Harris-Biden administration. Charter schools which the Harris-Biden administration has vowed to defund. What they are pursuing to bolster is teachers' unions. Unions across the board, but teachers' union. The biggest problem in New York, the biggest problem in most school systems is the union. There is no need for a union in this country. There is no need for a union in this country, period. Unions are to protect the weakest link of the chain. That's all they're there for. Okay? Let's get that straight. So what they are pushing for is bolstering the teachers' unions and the public education. They're taking away, like I said, the charter school kids are still going to school. The private school kids are still going to school. Their schools are open. The religious school kids, their schools are still open. Those are people that have a little more discretionary income and are able to afford to pay for their kids' educations. Who's getting hurt here? Who's getting hurt here? The very people that the Democrats say they want to protect, their kids are not getting educated. Their kids have lost a year already of education. They've lost a year. They are a year behind. That's a fact. Okay? You couple that with the fact that they are throwing smoke and mirrors to try to cover up their actions. They're basically telling these people that, listen, settle for minimum wage at $15. That's all you're ever going to get. That's their concern. That's the bone they're throwing at people. They're defraying the attention from the problem they're causing by not allowing kids to get their education, and saying, don't worry, at the end of the day, when you have a menial job, you'll be making $15 an hour. That's not what we're here for. We are not here to bring the median down so more can attain it. We're here to push more people up to reach that upper level, to reach success. We're not here to level the playing field downward. We're here to elevate the playing field. We're here for the rising tide to lift all boats. And that's not what the Democrats are pandering to. I know that to some, they view this as a stretch in the direction of simplicity, but it's not simplicity. It's a basic undermining. Education, the less educated and the more indoctrinated and brainwashed that a population is, the easier they are to control. And that's the intent here. There is no intent, as Congressman Green said, there is no concern by the Democrats for the people. It's all a power struggle. I look at what's going on today, and I tell you, bread and circuses. Bread and circuses. And it applies mostly to the young people in this country. And yeah, a lot of people are going to get offended by this, but that 20s, early 30s, that age group, 18 to 32, 35, let's say, that has been bought. First, they were indoctrinated. They've spent their entire lives in this system, being brainwashed and indoctrinated. Like Bernie Sanders' hero, Fidel Castro, with his mandate of every Cuban will be literate. Every Cuban will go to school to be literate. They're not going to school to be literate. They're going to school to be indoctrinated. What they learned to read was Communist Manifesto. What they learned to read was an indoctrination into support of Fidel and the revolution. A revolution that enriched no one but the upper crust, the Castro family and his minions. That's who it enriched. Venezuela, Chavez, Maduro, and their minions. While the rest of the country, and it's irrefutable, look at it. Both countries are destroyed. Economically destroyed. Cuba tried to blame the embargo, the American embargo. BS. Okay, because there's no embargo in Venezuela. And Venezuela is worse than Cuba. You can't even buy food. You can't get food. You can't get gas. People line up for days to buy gas. Formerly one of the most powerful oil exporters in the world, destroyed. Sapped dry. You can't argue with that. Bread and circuses, people. The young people of this country have been promised, we're going to forgive your student loans. You're going to get free college education. You are going to get free medical care. Guess what? None of that is free. Professors don't work for free. Doctors don't work for free. Universities and hospitals, the doors don't get open without paying. Maintenance, upkeep, electric bill, utilities, staff, overhead. None of that works. There's nothing free. When you structure free, somebody's paying for it. Why should a large segment of the population, by the way, I want you to know that the student loans, about 55% of people with student loans outstanding have master's degrees. And about 20% of people with student loans are among the nation's top 5% earners. They can more than afford to pay their student loans. Why should people who didn't go to college, people who did go to college but did it prudently, got an education in institutions that were not so keep up with the Joneses, a quality education. They have quality jobs now. And they took out no student debt. They worked their way through school. Instead of doing it in 4 years, maybe they did it in 8 years. But they worked their way through school, not to have debt. Why should they now, when they sacrificed, why should they now have to pay taxes to pay off for those who chose to go the high-end route? Why did they go to Ivy League schools? Why did they go to expensive colleges? Because they thought they were getting an advantage, a leg up. They said, we're going to get a very high-paying job and we're going to do great, and that's our path to success. Fine. That's fine. That's your choice. That is your choice. And that I applaud for striving and trying to get ahead. I applaud it. But guess what? You can't always win. And more importantly, you can win, but you have to have patience. You decided to take the route of encumbering yourself with huge debt. Pay for it. No one held a gun to your head. Pay for it. If there's a bad guy in all of this, it's the institutions themselves. If they're so liberal and they're so open-minded and they're so concerned about young people's student debt, you know what? Go wipe out some of those loans. Pay for them. You have hundreds of billions of dollars in endowments sitting there. All these major colleges do. Go write a check to the Treasury and say, here, take $5,000 off of every student loan. Go do it. They won't do it. They won't do it. The same reason they won't do it is because it's the same reason why they don't lower tuitions based on there not being on-campus learning right now. The tuition's the same. They've gone up or they've maintained the same. And the overhead has been cut tremendously on campus without on-campus study. Why isn't that passed down? Because in this socialist-based liberal agenda, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. It's always the Robin Hood. Take from the rich. The problem is that the definition of rich is every day becoming smaller and smaller. there is very little left for these Democrats and these liberals to attack other than the middle class. They're not telling you this. They're telling you they're going to only tax the rich. Every move that they're making is for the destruction of the middle class. Every single one of them. Because tax the guy who makes $400,000 and above, which, by the way, isn't rich in this country. But let's give him that narrative, okay? Tax that guy. Tax the guy who creates jobs in the country. All that's going to happen is they're going to reduce employment. They're saying we have 10 employees, we're going to have 9 now. Raising minimum wages, taxing the wealth creators excessively. There's talk about a 5% work-at-home tax now. Why? Why does the government have to get involved in any of this? Income is income. There's already an income tax. There might be state income tax where they work. Why an additional 5% because they work at home? That's not up to the government. That's up to the industry. That's up for the business owner to say, you know what? You're working home. You're not spending on gas. You're not commuting. You're able to take care of your kids. We're going to adjust the salaries downward. That's whose job this is. It's not the federal governments. It's not the state governments to say, we're going to tax you on that money. No, that's not their money. That's money that should go back and should be accounted for fiscally by the corporate entity for which they work for. It's not up to the government. The more we allow government in, the worse it's going to be. Going back to the bread and circuses theme that I keep going away from. These kids today, the bread is $15 minimum wage. The bread is free college. The bread is for eliminate student loans. The bread is free medical care. That's the bread. The circus that they're being given to keep them entertained, to keep the indoctrination in place, and to keep them from thinking outside the indoctrination box. The circus is the entertainers, the television, the show, the gaming, the video games, the constant bombardment, the TikToks, the Facebook, the Twitter. Keep people from thinking. And the ones that do try to make a statement that involves an opinion based on thinking, lead them in the direction you want. Indoctrinate them. Bread and circuses. Roman Empire. Patricians and plebeians. The haves and the have-nots. That's what we're facing here. The Senate is critical. I hope Sidney Powell can unleash the Kraken. At this point, I don't see it. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. Worst case scenario, we have to muddle through 2 years. There will be midterms. Statements will be made by the American people. We have to make sure our elections are real and they're not rigged. This election, with the mail-in voting and the way it was conducted, does have a very larger than normal element of fraud. I'm not going to tell you the other elections haven't had fraud. Yes, they have. This has a larger than ever element of fraud. There is no doubt, and I'll argue that with anyone. It cannot keep growing. It has to be brought back. We have to learn from the mistakes of this election. This mail-in balloting cannot be arbitrarily done the way it was done. Checks and balances must be in place. The stake of this country, the future of this country is at stake. I am going to leave it here at this point. I think that we need to fight and we need to stand up. And I mean fight, not physical. I am not a liberal. I do not believe in violence. And I do not believe in attacking people for having different thoughts. although that's what the liberals do. Okay? I believe in education. I believe in thinking. I believe in communicating. And I believe in the American people. We need to wake up and we need to say, this is America. We need to act as Americans. We need to put our foot down and say, do not tread on me. Do not tread on me. Thank you and have a good day.